This video is going to be on bimetallic switches, what they are, how they're used, where to find them, and how to diagnose them. Let's get started. The strip consists of two strips of different metals which expand at different rates as they are heated, usually steel and copper, or in some cases steel and brass. The strips are joined together throughout their length by riveting, brazing, or welding. The different expansions force the flat strip to bend one way if heated, and in the opposite direction if cooled below its initial temperature. The metal with the higher coefficient of thermal expansion is on the outer side of the curve when the strip is heated, and on the inner side when cooled. The sideways displacement of the strip is much larger than the small lengthwise expansion in either of the two metals. This is basically saying that copper is going to expand faster, so as it expands faster, it will buckle. And if it cools, it will buckle in the opposite direction. This is a basic example of how this switch works. When closed, normal, the current can flow in and out. When it is activated or open, current cannot flow in and flow out. This switch is used in series. So let's take a look at the next diagram. Let's use this S8X1 furnace as an example of how bimetal switches are used. In this case, we're going to study these switches used on the safety circuit for the gas furnace. We'll take a look up here. This is our 10-pin low voltage connector. And as you can see, we have transformer connection, red and blue. We have a gas valve. Now we also have PS, pressure switch, HLO, high limit out. We have our ground, HLI, high limit in. So let's take a look at the circuit. This HLO, high limit out, is going to send 24 volts or current. Let's just call it current. It's going to send a signal down this circuit. And we come to our first switch. This is what a thermal switch, bimetal switch, will look like on a diagram. Normally closed in this case. This symbol means temperature. And notice that if the switch goes up, it will open. That means this will open on temperature rise. If this switch was on the bottom side in the same orientation, it would mean open on temperature fall. So let's continue on the circuit, and this switch is closed. In the next series, RAF, and RAF is reverse airflow switch. What these switches are used for is if the blower cavity or blower compartment has excessive heat, they will open. This could be due to a clogged filter, motor stop, motor running slow, a variable speed motor not ramping up or running backwards as they can. So we want to have a safety for that. We'll continue down the circuit, down to our thermal limit. This is a high limit that's in the combustion chamber, near the combustion chamber, to test for excessive heat in the same instance. Maybe the blower stops, clogged filter, and this one will open on temperature rise. We'll continue on. Here's our flame rollouts. You'll see these on the outside of burners, gas burners, and they are normally closed. Most often, these flame rollouts have a little button. They can be manually reset. As we were seeing before, we're relying on temperature. These can be forced closed, whereas these will not. These have to cool down. As we go down the circuit, there's our second flame rollout. They might have one, they might have two, they might have three. And then we'll get here. And this is interesting. We'll use this as a nice explanation. You see this continues on. So if at this point we have no open switches, this current will continue back to pin 9, HLI, and the board will see that current. It'll have a circuit that'll detect that 24 volts or whatever it is, whatever current it is, sending back there. We use 24 volts. Now here you can see, this is another example. This is a pressure switch. That symbol's pressure, and that's a normally open switch. So as a safety, what this unit will do is, before the heat sequence can start, we need to know that that pressure switch is open. So we know that there's 24 going to it, and we shouldn't be getting it back because it's not closed. So PS should have no current on it. If it sees that, all these switches closed, it will start the inducer motor. And then if this pressure switch closes when the inducer motor creates vacuum, the pressure switch will close. Then it'll see the 24 coming back to the board, and then it will initiate the igniter. Once the igniter is initiated and the gas valve opens, flame sensor. So back to the switches, if any of these open at any time, the sequence will stop. Gas valve shuts. Most often when a fault occurs, the blower will run to clear out any excess heat. But again, filters clogged, registers closed, blower stops, any kind of air obstruction, and there's excessive heat built up in the heat sequence, and these switches open, then it'll stop the sequence. Now, we're going to use a very recent diagnostic to show how to diagnose an open switch, how to test an open switch, and maybe reset an open switch due to heat activation. Let's take a look. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate this bimetal switch. These are the reverse airflow switches in that S8X1. As you'll see, these were two that were condemned because they were open. And they're both good. Now, the way to test this opens on heat, and you might even hear it click. You hear that click? Tink. Now it's open. See? Oh well. You hear it snap again, snap back. It's metal and plastic. There's no wires in there, guys. Now, it's closed again. If you get that E04 error, you might have to take this out and dunk it in some ice water. Find the one that's bad. You simply, if it's got a continuity, it's good. When it heats up, it turns off.